Hey everybody, it's Jim Bull coming to you from Potter County, Pennsylvania, here on YouTube and Facebook, also over on Rumble, and if you want to look me up, my channel is Jim Bull Talks. So out in the woods here on a mid-September afternoon, let's say, and I wanted to get out. I'm in the Denton Hill area of Potter County, and that's located midway between Gailton and Coudersport along US Route 6. And I'm at the base of Denton Hill, which is home to the Pennsylvania Lumber Museum, which is to my east over here. Beautiful museum that dates back years, explaining the history of lumbering in our area. Come check it out sometime. Across the street is Denton Hill State Park, and Denton Go is a new entity that just took that over. You can see some people pulling into this parking area here. Denton Go is a new entity that just took that over, and they're going to be a year-round facility with ATV rentals, cabin rentals, camping, a lot of summer activities planned from what we understand, and also hoping to eventually bring skiing back to the mountain here in God's country, which would be way cool. So we're on the Commissioner Trail here. I've hiked this partially one time before, and I wanted to really come out because the leaves, we're starting to notice just in the last couple of days, the leaves are starting to make a change, and they're all starting to come off the trees already. We've had a weird rain season where we were pretty dry all summer long, and then we had a flood here, which was devastating. Took out people's houses, businesses. It was really tough on the area. That was a few weeks ago. We had 9 inches of rain in 3 hours. Over here is an old lumber mill that they've rehabbed or repurposed. It's not in use, but it is part of the Lumber Museum tour. You can come check that out. And it's pretty loud right here. We're right along PA Route 6. But I wanted to come out and get a look at the leaves and I'm going to try and bring you leaf reports, the changing of the scenery here in the coming weeks. All indicators are that our leaves are going to be in peak by the first week of October, which we get a lot of tourists in our area looking, we call them leaf lookers or leaf peepers, looking to check out nature, man. It's just beautiful. We go from green to red and orange and yellow, sometimes in a matter of a week, sometimes it takes a few weeks to pull that off. So we're on this Commissioner's Trail, and the other thing I started earlier last week was, hey, it's Halloween season. Why don't we do some research and tell some ghost stories or some unknown stories or creepy things that go bump in the night stories from the area. And today I came across a tale that dates back to the late 1890s that happened right here in Potter County and was reported by our local newspaper, the Potter County Enterprise, which is now the Potter Leader Enterprise, still in publication today. And this story first broke in, I think it was April of 1897. A cryptid in the woods of the PA wilds. Now, I got this from a gentleman named Lou Bernard. He's a blogger on the PA Wilds website, and he wrote this, shared this in September of 2021 as part of their ghost series. So I want to give credit where credit is due, and I will put a link in the description that you guys can go check that out and look at other ghost stories that they've reported on or reshared over time. So we're just resharing tales and fables and stories of things that may have happened. I guess it depends on what you believe in as to what could be true, right? So let's get into this. It was titled "A Cryptid in the Woods of the Pennsylvania Wilds." And a cryptid, if you don't know, is a creature or an animal that there's no proof that it exists. And good examples are Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, Yetis, the Thunderbird. We actually had a photojournalist in our restaurant here. We own the Brown Bull Cafe here in Gailton. And we had a photojournalist stop for lunch last year, and you know, some of these guys they're a little goofy sometimes. They wanted to feel us out, but he's like, I talk to everybody that comes in. Hey, why are you traveling? You on vacation? You have a camp? You live nearby, whatever the case may be. And this gentleman started to tell us that he's a photojournalist, and he was headed down to Ole Bull State Park area along the Kettle Creek, that there were some reports of thunderbirds recently. And he was trying to capture one of these creatures on film. And a thunderbird is an ancient mythical creature, large bird, probably swoop you up and eat you if it exists. I don't know. What do you think, right? So anyhow, that's what a cryptid is. And they're some of the more well-known things we hear about, TV, movies, online, etc., etc. But apparently there's more local cryptids to the area here in Potter County, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. So the reason I chose Denton Hill for two reasons. Number one is because the leaves seem to get more spectacular here and change on a quicker basis at Denton Hill than they do other areas of the county. Now maybe that's just my imagination, like a cryptid might be. But when I read this story, there was a sighting in the Denton Hill area. So let's get into it. You know, some of the local cryptids they're saying is something called a G-woggle from Clinton County, PA, which is just south of us. Never heard of a G-woggle, maybe, or G-woogle, like Google, I don't know. Supposedly some type of wolf/bird horse hybrid that lurks in the elk country landscapes. And then there's also something called the Susquehanna seal that appears in the Susquehanna River down around the I-80 corridor, which we're talking maybe Bloomsburg area. And down, I've never heard of the Susquehanna seal. Clarion County has a thing called Clarion, what is it? Never heard of that either. I don't know about you guys. Chime in, make some comments if you've heard of other local myths or creatures that may exist out in the Pennsylvania wilds that we're not aware of. So anyhow, I want to get on with my story here. The Clarion what is it was something that was spotted in the Cook Forest area. So that's more out toward the Allegheny National Forest region of our country, or our state. So, but Potter County, this myth or legend, this story broke in the Potter Leader Enterprise back in, I think, April of 1897. And they called this the Potter nondescript. Now, a nondescript, again, is something that lacks distinction or clarification. So that's the name this writer from the Potter Leader Enterprise came up with. And apparently there was a gentleman fishing. First report, he was fishing near Nelson Run, which is a popular stream here in Potter County for trout fishermen and others. And he was fishing near Nelson Run, and he heard something in the woods, and his horse was startled and caught this guy's attention. And he looks over, and here's this hairy creature standing there looking at him, walking upright. And the thing started beating his chest and let out a wail. And this, of course, freaked this fisherman out, and the horse is starting to panic. So he said he jumped on his horse, and as he did, this thing took a leap toward him and started chasing them away from the scene. And he said it didn't chase him long, but this creature was out there, and he went and it freaked him out enough to call the newspaper and report this. Now you got to know, like, these days there's a million, you know, there's a Jersey Devil. There's all kind of things. You can turn on any number of cable network shows and hear stories about any number of creatures that supposedly exist out here in the mountains, the woods. And I'm telling you, I talked about it in my hiking video last week out on the Susquehanna Trail System, or 2 weeks ago. You know, if something's out here and doesn't want to be found, that's not difficult to do. So, you know, I hike around some of these wooded trail systems, but I was out at the state game lands yesterday. I was going to bust into the woods, but I just super thick. Would have had to bushwhack my way through. And who knows what's out there. So anyhow, this story breaks into Potter Enterprise, and the reporter's like, okay, whatever, you know, I'll write about it and see if we get any response. And you gotta remember, this is 1897. There's no cell phones. There's no real means of communication. You get the newspaper. There's no radio. There's no television. No internet. So word doesn't travel real fast. But I guess, what was it? 2 weeks later, there's a guy here near Denton Hill. Okay, and let me see if I can find his name for you. I got some notes. I'm cheat sheeting, yeah, so not my story. I'm just retelling it to get your feedback and comments, and maybe you guys have seen something like this out here. William Butler of Denton Hill claimed to see the creature like 2 weeks after this breaks in the newspaper. And William Butler, as the paper stated, was known as a very truthful man. Now, we're not saying the first guy wasn't, but maybe they didn't know him. And they knew this William Butler well. And he spotted the creature eating a groundhog. Can you imagine that? I'm out here walking through the woods. And he gave a better description of this animal, or this cryptid, as we're calling it. 6 foot tall, upright with excessive hair, and tusks that were 6 or 7 inches long. Now, what would you think? What would you think? Sorry. What would you think if you're walking through the woods and you come across something like that eating a groundhog? What would you do? Right? Can you even believe something like this? But he had read this newspaper article just a few weeks prior. Sorry, I'm jerking you around here with my camera. A few weeks prior. Like, what the crap? And he said this Bill Butler told this reporter that he truly believes this creature would have attacked him if it weren't for him having his dog along. And the dog started going nuts and barking at this thing and wanted to get after it. And apparently it ran off into the woods. So